This is Genesis chapter 13 of the Message. So Abram left Egypt and went back to the Negev, he and his wife and everything he owned, and Lot still with him. By now, Abram was very rich, loaded with cattle and silver and gold. He moved from the Negev, camping along the way to Bethel, the place he had first set up his tent between Bethel and Ai, and built his first altar. Abram prayed there to God. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, was also rich in sheep and cattle and tents, but the land couldn't support both of them. They had too many possessions. They couldn't both live there. Quarrels broke out between Abram's shepherds and Lot's shepherds. The Canaanites and Perizzites were also living on the land at that time. Abram said to Lot, "Let's not have fighting between us, between your shepherds and my shepherds. After all, we're family. Look around, there's plenty of land out there. Let's separate. If you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left." Lot looked. He saw the whole plain of the Jordan spread out, well watered. This was before God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Like God's garden, like Egypt, and stretching all the way to Zoar. Lot took the whole plain of the Jordan. Lot set out to the east. That's how they came to part company, uncle and nephew. Abram settled in Canaan. Lot settled in the cities of the plain and pitched his tent near Sodom. The people of Sodom were evil, flagrant sinners against God. After Lot separated from him, God said to Abram, "Open your eyes, look around, look north, south, east, and west. Everything you see, the whole land spread out before you, I will give you and your children forever. I will make your descendants like dust. Counting your descendants will be as impossible as counting the dust of the earth. So, on your feet, get moving. Walk through the country, its length and breadth. I am giving it all to you." Abram moved his tent. He went and settled by the oaks of Mamre and Hebron. There he built an altar to God. So Abram's in contact with God. He's not messing up here. He's just walking with him. Strangely enough, something that I noticed in this read that I didn't notice in the King James Version was the fact that even though Abram was really gracious and just really accommodating, telling Lot, "You go left, I'll go right, you choose where you want to go, and I'll just go the other way," it ultimately still ended up how God had said. He went to Canaan, and that was the place since chapter 10 that he was supposed to be going, that things just keep kind of happening. Either he goes there and leaves, or he stops at some other place and stays. Ultimately, even with Lot choosing, having the choice to choose first, and he did choose the more prosperous looking place, Abram still ended up in the land of Canaan, which is the land that was promised to him, that his ancestors will inhabit. And it's just really interesting that somehow it just still worked out anyway. It's kind of, I guess some people would call that fate, but it's what God had declared, and it had to be fulfilled one way or another. So I may be thinking too deeply into it, but maybe the Jordan looked so great so that Lot would choose it and Abram would go where he was supposed to. That might be overthinking it maybe, but why not? I mean, this is a Bible study, just a Bible reading, and it's okay to look into things and just brainstorm and just be engaged. So he's staying with God, Abram. Meanwhile, Lot is in the Jordan, which looks prosperous, but he's near the cities. In some translations, they're kingdoms of Sodom and Gomorrah. And a lot of you have already heard of that story, know that story. And it says here in verse 13 that the people of Sodom were evil, flagrant sinners against God. So, it just isn't a good place. It's like the days of Noah all over again. But I said this in the King James Version. So he's not necessarily in a good spot, even though it looks prosperous. He's around wickedness. It's already being said and stated here that, and it's interesting, the grass really isn't greener, even though it literally seems as though it is. The area that he chose, even though it seemed prosperous, it's just filled with evil, which is going to bring some kind of curse or some sort of judgment from God. It has to. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have a whole lot of commentary today, I guess. But Abram leaves Egypt because of chapter 12 with the Pharaoh and his wife and being driven out. The Pharaoh let him keep his riches, so he's really prosperous now. His nephew Lot is also very prosperous, so prosperous that when they did migrate out of Egypt, the area that they were inhabiting together was just too much. It created strife between his shepherds and his nephew's shepherds, and Abram was just really cool and chill about it, just saying, we just need to separate. It's okay. The Canaanites and Perizzites were there too, so there's just a lot going on here. A lot of people in this space. And Abram was okay about separating and just kind of distancing themselves, to make things better. And he let his nephew choose, and he did. He chose the Jordan by Sodom. And Abram, it was fated. He settled in Canaan, the land of which he was promised. And chapter 14 through 17, after Lot separated from him, God said to Abram, "Open your eyes, look around, look north, south, east, west, everything you see, the whole land spread out before you, I will give to you and your children. I will make your descendants like dust." I'm just going to stop there because I just really noticed in verse 14 of chapter 13, after Lot separated from him, God said to Abram. So, God's not really necessarily with Lot like he is with Abram. There's just a stark difference here. For many reasons. Already God had chose Abram to fulfill this promise. But it almost seems, and I might be overthinking this too, but it's like when Lot separated from Abram, it's like in a way he separated from God. It was, in a way, especially seeing as he just was judging by the way that the land it looked, and he wasn't really in a good place. He went to a place that was near a lot of wickedness, probably some of the worst wickedness in the world, perhaps. So he might have left, separated, and it seemed good at first, but obviously where he's going, where Lot has headed, his destination and where he's chosen, it doesn't look like it's good, even though it seemed prosperous at the onset. We're learning as just within this end of this chapter that it's not what it seems. And that looks can be very deceiving. And that really the blessing is not even how things look or how it seems, but it's just in the truth of whatever God has for you. Yeah, it just looks like the prosperity is with God. The blessings are with God. It has nothing to do with you just making choices based on how things seem. Because, God can change that whole thing in 1 second or reveal the truth about it. But the blessings are with Him and what He declares over you. So it's really interesting. I always say that, but it's true. And this chapter ends with verse 18. Abram moved his tent. He went and settled by the oaks of Mamre and Hebron. There he built an altar to God. So he's just sticking with God. He's acknowledging him, praying to him. He's just with him. So, I mean, Abram's not really doing anything. He's like he was last chapter. He's kind of very calm and just really like walking in peace with the Lord. So, good for him. There's more to come with his story. So we're going to read chapter 14 tomorrow. I hope you got something out of this. I'm sorry, I don't have too much commentary about it. Things are just really, really chill. I think it's more or less about Abram's just kind of steadily walking with God in peace, and even the people that he interacts with is just very peaceful. He's very accommodating. He'll let them choose instead of himself, and I think it's just kind of focusing also on Lot making some choices, not necessarily asking God about it or anything. He's just making choices right now based on how things look or appear. And when you're doing that without God, it's risque. It is. But I don't blame him. A lot of us do that. Even the smallest choices we'll make them because we think we know. And I had a conversation once with a family member that told me, like, why not ask God about anything and everything in your life? Why not ask him for his approval, even down to brushing your teeth or something like that? And I just really, it stayed with me because it's so true. In every single aspect of your life, I think it would be wise to incorporate God. Ask God, inquire with him about things, get his approval, wait on him. That's so hard, though, especially when things get really tough. So I get it, but things aren't really tough for him right now. Things are good, but still, even when things are good, I think also people kind of forget, some tend to forget about God after the struggles are over and start, taking the reins again. But I think even when things are good, especially if you want to maintain it, the blessings that you have, you should just stay with him. But I stated this in the King James version of this chapter as well. It's just even when things are not good or good, you shouldn't really necessarily be looking for blessings first, aside from the blessing of having God be with you, because with him all things flow. With him you don't have to worry. And that, I know that's really hard, because I've also been there where I've worried even when I'm walking with God because of how things seem. But I've also learned that even if I feel that way, he still has to be around. I still have to talk to him anyway. Tell him that I feel these ways because I'm human. And he listens, and a lot of times he instantly comes and comforts me or reassures me with the Holy Spirit, with some kind of message. I usually don't have to wait very long to get a response. That is usually very helpful in whatever the situation at hand. In fact, I'm kind of going through something like that right now. I mean, I'm going through a big version, a huge kind of thing, but there's a micro version, a tiny thing for the day of today. And I'm having to lean on him, not necessarily seeking for him to do what I want him to do, but just being still and trusting him, despite how things look. And I hope to keep this practice when things are in a much better place for me. Anyway, I'm rambling, and I just really appreciate you for listening and reading along with me. I pray that you've gotten some elements from this chapter 13 that you could apply to your life in a positive way. I just pray that you guys are having a really good day, and that I just pray many, many blessings over you and your loved ones. I pray that you continue to walk with God and seek Him, and that you're able to understand and grow with the reading of the Word. So I thank you for watching, tuning in, and I'll see you later. Be blessed. Love you.